I love Batman. My oldest memory is of my dad and brother playing a Batman Beyond game. I've gotten Batman Christmas gifts almost every year that I can remember. I wear a Batman belt almost every day. I have a Batman keychain I made in my welding class. I've seen a bunch of the different animated series and movies. I've read comics. I've played every game I could get my hands on, and I still play the Arkham games to this day. I love Batman. So why don't I love Batman movies? Don't get me wrong, 89 is iconic, and The Dark Knight is arguably cinematic perfection. I won't be making that argument, but if you did, I don't know that I'd disagree. But none of these feel like my Batman. My take on Batman is maybe a little different than most people. I love Batman, not Bruce Wayne. To me, Bruce Wayne died in the alley with his parents. My Batman is Batman.
The voice kept calling me Bruce. In my mind, that's not what I call myself.
What do you call yourself? Oh yeah, I suppose you would.
And I love stories that are about Batman. For me, my go-to Batman story is the Arkham games. These stories aren't great, but I feel like these are the best versions of all these characters. Aside from not knowing what stories to give them, or only using certain characters to drive the plot forward, I still feel like all the characters act in a way that works for me. And more importantly, Batman has a pretty good story throughout all the games. And that's just not really something I feel like I'm getting from the live-action movies. So, let's just get into it. Yeah, so I don't know what these first four movies are referred to as, so I'll just call them the original movies, I guess. And these are really interesting to me because the best way I can describe the feeling I had after watching all these movies is that I felt like I just walked out of a Hot Topic. Now, I was born in 2000, so whenever I did watch these, I was really young. I remember a handful of scenes from the other movies, but I couldn't actually tell you what happened in any of them. So I would consider this my first time watching these. And they're just so weird. Most of the character interpretations are very different from what I'm familiar with. And I don't hate most of them, but I don't care to ever see them again. Like, for me, it's really weird to see an interpretation of Joker who's in love with someone who isn't Batman. I'm more familiar with this kind of Joker.
You wouldn't know what that feels like, I'm sure.
I might. Can you tell me more about how this person makes you feel?
It's like meeting someone I can actually relate to. Which, believe me, dear, I've never felt before.
So, I guess I get the point of this Penguin, because he is disgusting. I, much like the people of Gotham, don't like looking at him. Penguin is gross, and that's his character. He's ugly and deformed and has weird penguin features like his hand. So he's mad and bites people's noses off and molests women and wants to be the mayor so people will respect him. Catwoman is an actual cat woman. Like, she eats birds and licks herself and shit. And again, it's just weird for me. It seems like being weird and different was way more important than giving these characters good and interesting story arcs.
Yeah, this lights out! Now you wanna get nuts! Come on! Let's get nuts.
But those first two movies were Tim Burton just being Tim Burton, but now Burton is out and Schumacher is in, baby, and he said, "We're making a cartoon."
Can I persuade you to take a sandwich with you, sir?
I'll get drive-through.
So it's not really fair to try to compare his interpretations of these characters to their various comic and animated series counterparts. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about him. So we get a Riddler that is really into riddles and also creates a machine to read minds. And he doesn't he doesn't do any riddles with his machine. Like, those are two kind of just separate things for him. Like, this kind of could have been any villain, you know, like Two-Face, the kind of guy who actually divides his room in half to represent the two sides of, well, his face. The stories aren't all about the bad guys. We also get Chase Meridian, who just wants to bone Batman. That's it. That's her character.
My place. Midnight.
Hey, look, it's Robin. I wonder what version of Robin we'll be getting. Oh, it looks like Dick Grayson. Except, it's actually just Jason Todd.
It's your fault!
Mr. Freeze is actually fairly accurate to how I've seen him in stories. He does bad things to try to save his dying wife. They just played up the jokes and wacky villain trope to 11.
Tonight's forecast. A freeze is coming.
Poison Ivy's problem is similar to the Joker problem I have. I don't know why Ivy is so into Freeze that she'd actually try to kill his wife in order to make him fall in love with her instead. Just be into plants. Like, I don't know.
And you are?
Batgirl.
That's not awfully PC. What about bad person or bad woman?
We also get Batgirl, who is Alfred's niece, and doesn't like the idea that Alfred is a butler. And she goes to do these weird, I would guess, illegal races to earn money, so that way he doesn't have to be a butler anymore. I don't know where she got the idea that Alfred didn't want to be with Bruce, seeing as how Alfred is pretty much always a father figure to Bruce. They are family. I mean, it's not like Bruce is mistreating Alfred or anything, so. But then, kinda dead, Alfred is like, go be Batgirl, and Barbara says, okay. And now Robin, he doesn't like being Batman's sidekick. He wants a Robin signal? Okay. I guess. Batman and Robin was the one I remember the most because it's probably the only one we had on DVD. So I probably watched it more. And rewatching it now, it kind of starts to explain some things about me and some personal preferences I have. Why are these movies so horny?
Oh, I love purple.
Pussy I've been looking for. Where a button? Let me just get it on there.
I think because I reasoned with her girl to... You bring your scarred psyche.
Okay, but seriously, you look back at these movies and you get stories about Vicky Vale, Joker, Penguin, Catwoman, Riddler, Two-Face, Chase Meridian, Robin, Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, Batgirl, and Robin again. But you know who doesn't really have a story in any of these? It's Batman. You know, the guy whose name is in the title of these 4 movies? Oh, and Bane was in Batman and Robin too, and he was really just more like Solomon Grundy. Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, these ones really just weren't for me. Except that part, I guess. Ooh-wee, how am I gonna talk shit on Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy? I'm not. Well, not really. I mean, the movies are so incredible and groundbreaking. It's so crazy how they did Batman movies that are grounded and serious and blah blah blah. We all know, but the story of these 3 movies is one of the more unique Batman stories I've ever seen. These movies take a deeper look at the man behind the mask, Bruce Wayne. The trilogy starts with a young Bruce Wayne falling into a pit full of bats, traumatizing him to the point where he continues to fear bats into his adulthood.
That's frightened me.
But Bruce is pulled out of this pit by his father, a father who wanted to save Gotham and make it a better place, a mission that Bruce would choose to take on. But Bruce knew that he couldn't do that.
As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible.
It was Thomas Wayne's dream to save Gotham, but it's Rachel Dawes who reminds Bruce, and who pushes Bruce to be more for Gotham, and become the symbol he can be. When Bruce met Harvey Dent, he saw that Harvey had the exact same dream Bruce and his father did. But Harvey was doing it through the law and in front of the people of Gotham. Bruce saw that Harvey could be a better symbol than he could ever be. And Bruce was ready to let go of the bat to be with Rachel. But Rachel died, and Harvey lost his way. Bruce, knowing Harvey was better for Gotham than he was, and probably after just losing the person who inspired him the most, Bruce chose to let Batman be the bad guy, so Gotham could continue to believe in Harvey Dent. And when Bane comes to take over Gotham, Bruce isn't ready to be the Bat again. He loses and finds himself in a pit once again, but this time, no one's coming to help pull him out. Bruce had to find the strength to pull himself out of that pit and to become the Batman again to save the people of Gotham. And in the end, Bruce is finally able to leave Gotham and the Bat with it. Bruce can finally live his own life. These are really good movies, and they tell a really good story. But I feel like it's more of a Bruce Wayne story than it is a Batman story. Real quick though, I am going to talk about the one thing I don't like about these movies. Everyone knows that Batman doesn't kill. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it, so I hope you get why this is my biggest issue with the movies.
I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you.
This is Batman choosing to not try to save someone who needs his help and will die. This is Batman letting a man die. When I think of Batman and his no-kill rule, I always kind of think of these three scenes.
All the people I've murdered by letting you live.
All I've ever wanted to do is kill him. A day doesn't go by when I don't think about subjecting him to every horrendous torture he's dealt out to others, and then end him. But if I do that, if I allow myself to go down into that place, I'll never come back.
Do you want to know something funny? Even after everything you've done, I would have saved you.
He is well aware of what the Joker has done, and he knows how many people could be alive if he had just killed the Joker. He thinks about killing the Joker constantly, but he would never actually kill the Joker. And that includes letting him die. By letting Ra's Raish, I don't care how you pronounce it, die, it introduces a nice little loophole for Batman to do whatever he wants. He can push the Joker off a building and then just save him, why not? But then he can push Harvey off a building and not save him? Are we gonna call this one Gravity? Did Gravity do that? Why not just let Gravity kill the Joker? I don't know. I guess I would have liked if we talked about how maybe Batman kind of definitely maybe killed Harvey, because I kind of feel like he played a very large part in that. Overall, this problem is small in the grand scheme of these movies. I know it's probably really stupid to be upset about, but I don't care. I'm upset. I can't control that. Oh, was I supposed to talk about this one? I thought we all just got it. Like I thought. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna just move on then, because this one, we don't need to talk about this one.
I got you! I got you! Take that, you friggin' psycho! I got you!
Yeah, I was one of those losers sitting there thinking, oh, there's no way the guy from Twilight could be a good Batman. Da, ba, da, ba, da. But I was so wrong. And luckily, I knew I was wrong from the very first trailer. And the more and more I saw of this movie, the more and more wrong I knew I was. So finally getting to see the Batman 2 days before its actual release, by the way, I knew that this was my Batman movie. Because it's the first of these movies I feel like is actually a Batman movie. Could I talk about how much I love the cinematography, the performances, the soundtrack, the costume design, the pacing, the fact that even on my second viewing I was still on the edge of my seat? Sure, but I mean, it's not like I talked about any of that stuff for the other movies, because then I wouldn't be complaining about them. So we won't talk about them now. So instead, we're just going to talk about the Batman. This isn't a look at the man behind the mask. This is a look at what that mask means to the man, and how he embraces the mask to the point where the mask is more important than the man. The Playboy persona doesn't exist here because Bruce Wayne is a broken man. He's a man who goes out every night ready to die, and at this point it seems like he would welcome it because he's not afraid to die. He thinks he's overcome all of his fears and completely embraced the darkness and all the anger, the violence, and the fear that comes with it. And he is throwing it all right back at the criminals that flood the streets of Gotham. And that makes it hard for Batman to see any change because the city is covered in shadows. By continuing to put that much darkness out into the world, the shadows are just gonna grow, making the world so much darker and inviting people like the Riddler to join in the shadows. And the only way to get rid of the shadows is a bright light, one full of compassion and kindness, one that can inspire not just fear, but hope. The people of Gotham, innocent or guilty, all fear the Batman, but we get to see Batman finally start to open up and accept other people into his life. Meeting Selina, working with Jim Gordon, and almost losing Alfred all help Bruce understand why he's Batman and why he wants to help the people of Gotham. He understands the pain and the suffering the people of Gotham are going through. He understands the pain of being a boy who just lost his father, the pain of being a boy whose world has just been turned upside down, and to find yourself surrounded by shadows. And by the end, Batman can use that darkness that he embraced to be that bright, shining light, guiding others out of their darkness. Bruce can be for Gotham what he never had. And while this is obviously a movie that is very grounded, similar to The Dark Knight, I'm just saying, we haven't gotten like a really cool monster, like, Man-Bat in one of these movies. And if anyone can find a way to pull it off, it's probably the guy who did the Planet of the Apes movies. Just saying. Do it, you cowards! Look, I completely get it if this movie doesn't hit the same way for everyone as it did for me. I mean, it's not like everyone wants to watch 3 hours of Batman. And I get that some people really love the Bruce Wayne side of Batman. And maybe some people even love how goofy and wild the villains can be. I mean, I'm just glad that everyone can have a reason to love Batman movies. And I'm just really happy that I finally have my Batman movie.